In a valley steeped in the fragrance of blossoms, where golden sunlight gently draped itself across fields of lavender and wild daisies, lived a little bee named Lena. Lena was not the fastest in the hive, nor did she bring back the most nectar. Her wings did not stretch as wide as the seasoned workers, and her legs often trembled slightly after each long journey through the sky. Yet, among hundreds of busy bees, Lena stood out for one rare and precious thing: a heart filled with warmth and quiet selflessness. Whenever a young bee took their first flight and got lost in the tangled maze of petals and pollen, Lena would pause her route and circle back, patiently guiding them home. If she saw a bee struggling to carry that final drop of nectar, too exhausted to go on, Lena would gladly take it upon herself and whisper, "Take a moment to rest. I'll handle this part." There was even a time she spread her tiny wings to shield a frightened baby bee during a sudden spring rain, letting herself get drenched just to keep the others safe. No one asked Lena to do these things. She never complained, never kept count. To Lena, helping others wasn't a duty, it was simply who she was, a silent joy, a way of being. Day after day, Lena fluttered tirelessly from flower to flower, finishing her own work and then offering her wings to others who needed them. Whenever someone was in trouble, their thoughts always turned to her. Over time, her kindness became so consistent, so dependable, that it began to blend into the background, unnoticed. No one realized that Lena had started flying lower, that her wings now beat slower, that her eyes no longer sparkled with the same bright energy. Lena said nothing. She simply thought to herself, "Just a little more. If I help one more time, maybe everything will be all right." Then, one scorching afternoon, in the middle of a radiant field, Lena fell. No one saw it happen. The other bees carried on with their tasks, assuming she was off helping someone again, as she always did. It wasn't until the hive grew quiet, the baby bees stopped receiving guidance, and the jars of nectar filled more slowly, that they began to wonder. And slowly, a painful truth settled in. Lena was gone. An elder bee finally whispered, his voice heavy with sorrow. "She's not coming back," and none of us ever asked her, "Lena, are you tired today?" Day after day, Lena had flown beneath the endless blue sky and across flower-filled fields. While others stuck to their roles, gathering, returning, resting, Lena took on the weight of those too tired, too sick, or simply too slow to finish in time. Each morning, when dew still clung to the petals, Lena was already up, gently tapping the wings of her hive mates to wake them. She was the first to leave the hive and the last to return. Sometimes she paused mid-flight to carry nectar for a bee with a broken wing. Other times, she stayed behind late to check the hive's tunnels, making sure no little bee had been left behind. No one ever asked Lena to do all those things. There was no command from the queen. No reward awaited her at the end of the day. And yet, over time, everyone grew used to her quiet acts of kindness, as if they were simply part of how the hive worked. They became accustomed to Lena always being the helper. They expected her timely presence. They assumed someone would carry the burden for them without ever stopping to wonder whether that someone might also need to rest. No one ever asked, "Lena, how far did you fly today? Lena, do your wings ache? Are you truly okay, or just trying to smile through the fatigue?" And Lena never once complained. She simply told herself, "Just a little more. If I do a bit extra today, tomorrow will be easier for them." But day by day, the strength of that tiny bee, like the honey in their combos, slowly drained, and no one noticed. Wings that once danced like morning mist began to grow heavy. Her buzz, once bright and full of life, grew faint, as though she herself was slowly fading from the hive's sight. No one saw it clearly, because Lena always smiled. She smiled while helping carry nectar. She smiled when nursing a bruise, but still pushing herself for another flight. She smiled even when her heart was afraid that if she stopped, the hive would fall apart. And so, in that quiet sacrifice, Lena became a nameless shadow, a familiar comfort no one paused to thank. A tiny figure fluttering in the wind, until her strength could carry her no more. Each passing day, Lena flew on increasingly burdened wings. Sometimes strong winds forced her to tilt just to stay upright. Other times, sudden rain soaked her wings, making every beat a struggle. Yet not once did she stop for herself. Her heart always placed others before her own needs. "Just a little more," she kept whispering. "If I don't do it, then who will?" And so Lena flew on, even as aching crept into her small, fragile body. Her once nimble legs began to stiffen. Each time she landed on a blossom, it took longer to regain her balance. Each takeoff left her wings trembling with fatigue. She could no longer sense the sweet fragrance of the flowers like before. Everything became a blur, muted, less alive. And under the warm sun, Lena kept smiling, kept gathering nectar, kept helping her friends, all while her body quietly cried for rest. Then, one sweltering afternoon, as the sunflowers bowed under the summer heat, Lena collapsed. In the heart of a violet field, where a gentle breeze drifted beneath an unusually blue sky, the little bee could go no further. Her wings stopped. Her tiny body came to rest upon a blossom in full bloom. No one saw the moment she fell. No one knew she would never return. Back in the hive, everything continued as usual. Her friends still assumed Lena must be helping someone again. She's probably out by the edge of the meadow. That's Lena, always busy, always somewhere. No one truly noticed she was gone. No one questioned why she hadn't come home that day. No one realized the flowers in the southern field had gone unvisited. Until the hive itself began to slow down. Daily tasks started missing a helping hand. The young bees grew unsure in flight, with no one left to guide them. When nectar was spilled, there was no gentle voice to gather it again. A strange emptiness crept in, soft but undeniable. For without Lena, the hive had lost a piece of its soul. And still, none of them truly knew that the smallest bee had made the greatest sacrifice silently, unseen. At first, no one noticed her absence. Routines carried on, or at least everyone tried to pretend they did. But within just a few days, a hollow stillness began to settle across the hive, like a quiet wind winding its way through a forest that had forgotten how to sing. The distant flowers were left untouched. Young bees, unsure and wobbly in their first flights, fluttered alone without a guiding companion. When one of them spilled nectar, no one was there to help gather it back up like before. Bit by bit, day by day, the hive began to feel disoriented, disrupted, missing the gentle rhythm they had always taken for granted. One quiet morning, old bee Arno, who often sat at the edge of the hive watching the faraway meadows, whispered, "Lena isn't coming back." That sentence fell like a cold breeze, slicing through the golden warmth of the sunlit air. The entire hive froze. Some bees murmured, "That can't be. Lena always comes back. She's probably just flown a little farther today." But deep down, each of them felt that something within had broken. And slowly, memories began to return. Moments of Lena's gentle smile. The time she lifted a wing to support a tired friend. The long afternoons when her small form would appear, offering help without being asked. The rainy mornings she flew alone, without complaint, fulfilling her quiet duty to the hive. They had grown so used to her constant presence, they never imagined she could disappear. And then came the question, not out of blame, but from heartbreak and regret. Why did none of us ever ask Lena? "Are you okay?" No one had an answer. The hive fell into stunned silence. Some of the elders lowered their heads. The young bees blinked away quiet tears, for the one who once protected them was now gone. And in that silence, sorrow filled the hive like a heavy fog. Even the strongest wings now trembled in remembrance of a tiny bee who always smiled, always gave, and never once asked for anything in return. Lena's loss didn't just leave a space in the hive, it left a lesson. A quiet truth, deeper than any spoken word. Never wait until someone collapses to care how tired they are. From the day Lena's body came to rest among the violet blossoms, the hive was never the same. Not because it fell apart, but because something within it had awakened. Her absence became a mirror. Each bee looked inward, remembering how often they had leaned on her without ever thinking to lean back. Her silent sacrifice had become their wake-up call. From that moment on, young bees began to listen more. Help was no longer assumed, it was offered with intention. "Thank you" became a common phrase. But most importantly, they learned to ask, "Are you tired today? Can I help carry your load?" Even the strongest bees learned to pause and help the youngest. Long flights were never taken alone again. And whenever a bee returned home with heavy wings, there was always another waiting to lift them through the final stretch. And then, one late autumn day, as the flowers began to shed their petals and the winds shifted toward winter, the hive flew together united to the violet field where Lena had fallen. They carried with them tiny petals, the sweetest drops of honey, and placed them gently on the blade of grass where her small body had once rested. An elder bee whispered softly, "Thank you, Lena, for teaching us how to love the right way." That day became a sacred tradition. Lena's Day, the day of the selfless bee. The queen herself bestowed upon Lena the title, the Golden Heart of the Hive. And from then on, her story was passed down from one generation to the next, like a legend too important to ever be forgotten. Final message. In every group, every family, every community, there is always a Lena. Someone who never says no, who always smiles through the exhaustion, who is always there when someone needs them. But too often, people like Lena are the easiest to forget. So please, don't wait until they fall to realize how much they were holding everything together. Be kind in time. Ask gently. Sometimes, just one soft question can help someone fly a little farther. A. Don't let bees like Lena collapse in silence. Be the flower they can rest on, the drop of nectar that renews their strength. If Lena's story, The Little Bee with the Big Heart, touched your soul, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us keep telling meaningful stories like this one. ATC. And don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you never miss a story full of love and awakening. If you know someone who is just like Lena, quietly giving, always there, send them this video as a heartfelt thank you. Reaver.